I'm not optimistic because in 1991, a chance to completely end Cold War, even though the Cold War probably ended before 1991, Reagan and Gorbachev or Bush and Gorbachev, let historians decide that. But there was certainly an opportunity in the 1990s to establish with post-Soviet Russia an entirely new post-war relationship that would be a cooperative partnership in world affairs. These two enormous, and remember, Russia, even after the Soviet Union, is still the largest territorial country in the world. A relationship between these two extraordinary large countries, a partnership that would have done a lot, not only for both countries, but to create a secure international environment for all countries. That opportunity was lost. In my view, let me say it again, most people say it was lost in Moscow, later by Putin in 2000 and after. In my view, it was lost in Washington by Clinton, who took a winner-take-all approach to Russia and did things in his Russia policy that were deeply resented in Russia and remembered today. The expansion of NATO toward Russia, the bombing of Russia's ally Serbia, the attempt to intervene in Russia's internal affairs in a way that America wanted, and more. And by the way, never under Clinton was any Soviet era or Russian debt forgiven, even though the United States forgave half of communist Poland's debt. And recently Putin has forgiven the North Korean debt. There was no forgiveness of debt. So when people say, well, we gave Russia loans in the 1990s, that they came with onerous interest rates and the need to repay. And they were only paid off eventually under Putin when oil prices went up. So that was a lost opportunity. And we're living with the consequences of that today. The Russians feel very bitter. They feel, and both Putin and Medvedev have used this word, deceived and betrayed by false American promises. I often ask people who say, well, haven't we given Russia a lot? I said, I can name many things that Russia's given us. Today, transit lines to Afghanistan. But you name one thing that of significance, that Moscow has received from Washington in the 21 years since the Soviet Union ended. You can't name anything that was truly a unilateral American concession or act of reciprocity. So what's happened for many years is Washington took from a weak Russia and gave nothing. Then Putin came and in 2007 made his famous speech in Munich, which shocked America, that he said, the era of one-way concessions where Moscow gives and Washington takes is over. From now on, we are equals or we are not partners. And that's where we are today, because Obama's attempt to reset the relationship was a good idea. He wanted things from Moscow. He wanted a tougher Moscow line against Iran. He got that. He wanted Moscow to provide supply routes for American troops fighting in Afghanistan. He got that. But Russia wanted in return something too. It wanted a formal end of NATO expansion toward its borders. It wanted an end to American interference in Russia's internal affairs. And a few other things. It got nothing. So in 2012, when the leader of Russia, Putin, seems edgy and a little bit aggressive verbally about relations with America, he's operating in the context of a man who made many concessions and got nothing in return. And he is not a dictator. He has to answer to his own governing class. That's where we're at now. The future depends, I think, on a government in Washington that understands what I just said, that Moscow has received nothing of value for what it's given, and prepared a Washington government to make major compromises. The logical first priority would be on missile defense, which the Russians regard as a threat to their security. Many nuclear scientists agree with them. And it would be very easy for Washington to make compromises that might even lead to a joint American-Russian missile defense system. But neither Obama nor Romney nor anybody in the American political elite, policy establishment has advocated that, though there are some hints that Obama might if he's reelected. But something like that would be required to accelerate partnership. Otherwise, we are closer to Cold War now, which, remember, was not shooting. It was just not a lot of cooperation, than we are to a partnership.